makes a fat joke about a 4-year-old child when he says, well, I see you're feeding him well. So there's a couple of very interesting sort of moments in this exchange. But at the end of it all, he promises he's not going to take her in. And ultimately, we get a referral back to the title of the episode, The Promise. The title of the episode is derived from the promise that he made to Ava early in season 6, where he told her he wasn't going to let anything bad happen to her. And what was her response? There's a special place in hell for a man who breaks a promise to a woman, or something like that. And and this is the promise. And so he's not going to let anything happen to her. And she says, well, it's not just you that I'm worried about. And because our good friend Boyd Crowder is still alive. He's in custody, but he's still alive. And she's worried about him because now she's got a kid that he might be interested in, or, you know, marginally interested in. Even more reason to try and track her down. And so Raylan pays Boyd a visit, and we get this clip of Boyd. He's back at preaching, and he's telling his tale about driving a truck full of dead men and a car full of heroin through the Mexican desert. And he's being just as Boyd Crowder absurd as ever. And it sounds like, you know, based on the way that he tells the story, it sounds like he's been telling this story for a while, for 4 years, and everybody's heard it before, but they love seeing him perform. And he does this climb the ladder thing. I'm climbing the ladder. I'm coming. Like, it's very, very, very funny. And he gets interrupted because he's got a visitor, and it's not visiting day, Officer Kreger. But I don't know, that line just sticks in my head for some reason when he calls him Officer Kreger. I don't know why. Just the way he delivers that line, it's always sort of stuck with me. But you know, Raylan arrives for a visit, and they sit there and they have a little chat. And Raylan explains to him that, hey, Ava's dead, and here's how we know. We found a body, matched the DNA on it. We found the ID that she was using belonged to this person. This person called us and told us about it. Turns out it happened a couple years ago. We didn't know. We thought we had got her, or we thought we were getting close to getting her. She was probably on the run, probably fell asleep at the wheel, and died in a solo car crash. And you know, gives him all of the receipts, right? He has the death certificate. He has a newspaper article. He's got all this stuff to kind of back up the claim that Ava's dead. And eventually Boyd comes around to accepting that Ava's dead. And then they have a little conversation, you know, just about their personal lives and how things are going. And then Boyd asks Raylan a question. And he says, hey, look, why is it that you came here to tell me this? And you know, look, everyone knew that we were going to have a clip of this before we even started this episode. When you listen to Fire in the Hole, you knew that we were going to do the last 2 minutes of this episode as a clip. There's no doubt in anyone's mind that was going to happen. So we might as well just get to it.
Okay then. Maybe it's for the best.
For who?
Well, she was trying to get out. But I just don't think that's possible. Follows you behind somehow, right? Hell, sometimes I think the only way to get out of our town alive is to have never been born there. But then, of course, there's you. How's life in Florida?
Pretty much as advertised. He wouldn't like it, though. A lot of Jews.
Raylan Givens, if I didn't know better, I think you're trying to provoke me. Now, you know Jesus Christ was a Jew.
I've heard. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to.
Look for a reason to get off the phone. Can I ask you one question before you go?
As long as you understand, if it annoys me, I'm just gonna hang up.
Scout's honor. Trumbull Penitentiary is a long way from Miami, Raylan. Now, you could have called the warden, could have sent word through my lawyer.
Ask him why I came. Thought it was news that should be delivered in person.
That's the only reason. After all these long years, Raylan Gibbons, that's the only reason.
Well, I suppose if I allow myself to be sentimental, despite all that has occurred, there is one thing I wander back to.
We dug coal together.
That's right.
They dug coal together. And
they dug coal together, yeah.
Exactly. And so Raylan felt compelled to visit Boyd and tell him in person. And you wonder, you see that, and on the surface, you think about that scene and you think about that moment, and you're like, oh, that's really cool sort of moment, right? There's a connection between these two men that transcends their antagonistic relationship. And then you scratch the surface a little bit on that. You think to yourself, well, wait a minute. The only reason Raylan went there is because he made a commitment to Ava that he was going to make sure Boyd knew that Ava was dead and that he was never going to be a threat to her again. That's the only reason he went. And he knew he was the only person capable of doing that. That Boyd wasn't going to believe it if he heard it from the warden or if he heard it from a news report or something else. Like, he would think, okay, well, Ava still got away. And so Raylan comes with the receipts and gives him this thorough explanation of why Ava's gone and not coming back, and why there's no reason for him to ever try and go after her again. And Boyd takes it as, you came here because we have this connection. And really, we are pretty sure that the reason Raylan is there is because he's protecting Ava. And so it's an interesting sort of dichotomy. And you think about how lonely Boyd has to be in prison, right? He's got nobody left. There is nobody.
Yeah.
His entire family's dead, either at his hand or at someone else's hand. All of his friends and compatriots, his coadjutors, as they say, they're all dead. And that's it. I can't imagine he's gotten a visitor to this point in prison, right? Other than his lawyer. Like, who else would be visiting him?
God, for some reason, I thought that there was like a musical montage at the end of this episode, and I distinctly remember when I first saw this years ago, where it was Boyd who actually saved Raylan during in the mines. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do know what you're talking about. There is a clip, and I believe it's at the end of season 1, actually. I think it's in the episode where Raylan and Boyd are holding each other at gunpoint at the end of season 1. And there's a moment where we see them both limping out of the coal mine together, like one arm around another, like somebody definitely dragging somebody else out. And it's heavily implied that that's Boyd dragging Raylan out of that mine.
Okay.
And we occasionally get a reference to it, but not anything clear where it's like, Boyd saved my life or anything like that. We don't get that necessarily. But it's definitely implied. And and so that's where that comes from, that you're thinking of. I think it's not this episode; it was the season 1 episode.
At the end of season 1,
I think it's the last episode. Yeah, season 1, episode 13. I think it's Bulletville. I think is where we get that scene as Raylan's sort of pointing the gun at the car where Boyd's driving away. I think that's where that comes in. I'm pretty sure that's what I remember, but I absolutely remember that flashback scene, and it's obscured by smoke, and they're like, it's like backlit, and they're like limping out of the mine or whatever together.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I was expecting at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I maybe when it originally aired, they had cut that in or something, but it's definitely not in the version that I watched this time around.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was remember trying to look for it. I'm like, that's not the way I remember the series ending.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the thing with physical media, right? Let me get on my soapbox on my high horse here for a second. It's like, that's the thing with the physical media versus streaming. It's like, if they did take that out, if they did change it in the later versions of that episode, but you had bought the DVD box set, you'd have the original version of that episode without that piece being cut out. Whereas if you watch it on streaming, you would never even know that piece had been cut out of the movie or of the show. And the same thing happens in movies and other TV shows. Like if you look at, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, several of the episodes are not available on streaming because
really?
Yeah, because of the Lethal Weapon thing where they do blackface. So they've taken them off streaming, even though that's part of the joke, right? The joke is that they're such a-holes that they're doing blackface, right? It's not portrayed as something good to aspire to. It's portrayed as something an idiot does, but it's still not available on streaming. So
I was gonna say that's the Streisand effect. Is it really? No. Is it? It is kind of, but not really.
Yeah, kind of, but not really. Yeah. I think that thing might have died. That might have died like 20 years ago. The Streisand effect. I remember when that was the thing. Everybody was all worked up about it. And that's the end of the episode and the end of the series. And so, we get this ending. Boyd's in jail. Raylan's happy. Ava is, happy on the run, raising her child, working on this ranch. No fear that she's going to go to jail, but she can't live a normal life still because Raylan's not going to look for her. Raylan's not going to take her in, but the junior deputy in the Seattle office who stumbled across that newspaper clipping might eventually find her. Right. So it's not like she can go back to living a normal life. She's still got to be in hiding for the rest of her life. So, I look, I think it's a perfect ending. I think it's very, very, very good. And, I said this when we watched City Primeval, the sort of the work that they did to sort of unravel the ending, in City Primeval, while I was, I'm of two minds of it, right? Because I was super excited to see it because I love, these are my friends. I love seeing these guys again and I want to watch more of them. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, you guys, it was so perfect. It was so perfect. You don't need to go change it. Don't expand it. Don't make it, don't ruin it. Right. It's so hard.
Well, it's better than say like the way The Sopranos ended. Like there was all these questions and stuff. This is like perfect as far as giving like finality or closure or whatever you want to call it to the series, and to open up that can of worms. Like I'm like you. I was excited I'm two minds. I want to see these guys again and everything else. But the way this series ended is perfect.
It is. I think it's a perfect ending. I think nothing else to say on that topic, really. It's just real good. And and I'm sad every time I'm sad it's over. Every single time I'm sad it's over. And boy, let me tell you, I am doubly sad that it's over this time around, having done now 78 episodes of this podcast to talk about my favorite TV show.
Yeah, over the past when did we start? 2021, so 3 years.
No, it was March of 2020 when we started this. So it was like 2-3 weeks after the Panini started.
Okay. God, boy, that time's gone by fast,
hasn't it? Though it's been almost 4 years. It's nuts. So we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about kind of what's happened in the last 4 years as we've done this show and sort of what we've learned from doing it. That's going to be a special episode that we'll do here in a few weeks and release that. And then again, we'll also talk a little bit more about our plans for the future. But before we can get to any of that, we have to do our final segment for the final time. Are you going to shoot him too, Raylan?
I was telling my friends this morning how yesterday he come to me and if you don't get out of town in 24 hours, I'm going to shoot you on sight.
Fire now!
Are you going to shoot him if you catch it?
I'll kill 4 of you before you even clear your weapons, and I'll take my chances with the other two.
If you get the chance, shoot him in the nuts.
I don't pull my sidearm unless I'm going to shoot to kill.
Are you going to shoot him too, Raylan? And in this episode, Raylan actually shoots Boon dead.
He does.
And it's been a while.